13 teams are going bowling from the SEC, 12 bowl games to break down since Georgia has the first round bye. And naturally, everyone wants to know, which is the best game? How about Dave and I give you our top 12 rankings going into bowl season around the SEC? Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson. And today, we rank every single bowl game surrounding SEC teams in 2024. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, smash that ring notification down below, and of course, hit the subscribe button so you can keep up to date with everything that we're doing here on the channel. Make sure that you're following us on social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks, the official sponsor of the SEC Unfiltered Tour and the #1 fantasy app for college sports. Guys, just because college football season is over does not mean you can stop betting. Prize Picks is your #1 fantasy app for college basketball. Do you like the over-under in points for Alabama? Do you like the over and under in points for Auburn? Who do you think is going to score the most buckets in tonight's performance? Go to prizepicks.com and use the promo code SECU at sign-up to get a $50 instant play with your very first $5 lineup. Regardless if it's in bowl season, regardless if it's in basketball season, do so with the #1 fantasy app, prizepicks.com, promo code SECU. Dave, there's a dozen bowl games going on in the SEC. We have our rankings definitively. We're going to be arguing back and forth who actually has the right list. Are we close on any of these? I'll let you start off number 12 because I have a very good feeling you and I may have the same person in last place.
Yeah, man. Fired up for bowl season. Obviously, I feel like it didn't have the vibe we had when we were kids. But kind of at least, you were in the same age range, but like when we were kids, because it used to feel like you had some momentum. You could build up. You had 75% of your team back. But I still think there's tons of things to look forward to. I mean, you got storylines, old coaching staffs playing each other, see some young quarterbacks we're not going to get to see. I think there's some motive. South Carolina, I think, is going to go out and kind of take the approach Missouri did last year. So there's a lot of things to look forward to, Bear, but I appreciate you giving me the pleasure to go first and finishing 12th. Out of our 1 through 12 rankings.
By the way, real fast, somebody has to be in last place. Like
somebody had to be last. Do not take advantage. Do not take insult to what we're about to say. We don't hate your bowl game. We just hate you. That's all we're trying to say here, okay? Dave and I do not hate the bowl game you're playing in or the competition. We just hate you and your fan base, okay? So, Dave, go ahead and hit fire away. I'm going to have to go. We're going to go just outside Dallas here, Bear, in your state. We're going to go to the Lone Star State just outside the Big D to the Fort Worth Bowl. Like Cole mentioned, I'm sorry. We do not hate your team. The Armed Forces Bowl, Oklahoma versus Navy. I don't think we're going to see any of Arbuckle, the new OC. It came over from Washington State, where a quarterback, you're not going to see Jackson Arnold. It'll be what's his name? Cam
Want to be Michael Hawkins?
Michael Hawkins. We'll see Michael Hawkins. I don't know. This could be a really low-scoring game here, Bear. I can see there's not being a lot of fireworks. Again, not bashing the game or anything. I trust Oklahoma's defense. I trust Navy's defense. I do expect Danny Stutzman and then Billy Bowman to then play well in their last game as a Sooner. It's just, like you said, somebody's got to finish last.
Number 12. It's the Armed Forces Bowl. Guys, the over-under has officially come out at 40 total points, and there is a joke that's going on. If 40 total combined points are scored in this game, then all hell has frozen over down south. That's how big of a moment it will be. Two stellar defenses, two minimal offenses. Blake Horvath, he might be somebody that you got to keep a close eye on. The way that he was able to play for the midshipmen this year is really, really promising. You got to feel like the direction of the team under a brand new staff is trending in the right direction. They have a shot to finish 9-3 with a win over Army to close out the year, if possible. But still, when you look at Oklahoma, you don't have an offensive coordinator because Ben Arbuckle is not coming on in just yet. You don't have a quarterback because Michael Hawkins Jr., we don't know if he's going to be the long-term answer or if he's even going to stick around. No Jackson Arnold. Nick Anderson entered the portal. You got to wonder who's going to opt out of these bowl games for players in Oklahoma's defense. It just feels like, again, you're kind of hitting the reset on Oklahoma football in the SEC. Let's play our bowl game. Let's try to finish above 500. Let's try to go 7-6, bring representation to the conference. Nothing more, nothing less. Nobody is going to be batting an eye at this one. Who do you got number 11?
Got the Gator Bowl, baby. We're going to Duval. The Duke Blue Devils versus the Ole Miss Rebels.
Again, this one could have a little more luster. I'm just projecting there to be some opt-outs on the Ole Miss side, but as some things look right now, it looks like some of these guys, like Trey Amos, announced he was going to play in it. So maybe some more. Jackson Dart obviously is going to play in it. Maybe some more of these Ole Miss guys are going to play in it than I anticipate, which I do think would heighten it up a little bit more. But as we speak right now, I think there's going to be a little more opt-outs. So again, I think this could be good. What do we got? A 9-3 Duke team here.
9-3 teams.
Yeah, 2-9-3 teams. Manny Diaz overachieving this year. A lot of people thought they may win their first four, and not win another game, or maybe only win one more game. A lot of people thought they would fall off. No, Johnny Brewer's done a good job at the offensive coordinator spot. Like I mentioned, Manny Diaz. We know Ole Miss, a little disappointing, but you know what? A chance to go win 10 games back-to-back years. I think we're all fired up because I think Jackson Dart's going to go down as an all-time great Ole Miss Rebel, and it's fun to see somebody, which I want to tip of the cap to him, is, hey, man, it's not the bowl game you wanted to be in. Obviously, you want to be in the playoffs, but you're going to finish this off the right way, and I got to give you the tip of the cap to that, and I think the Ole Miss fan base will really embrace him there. Again, Cole, like you said, somebody's got to finish 11th, somebody's got to finish 12th. I kind of like this game, and I think it could rise up if a lot more of Ole Miss didn't have the opt-outs. But across the board, I'll go 11 here.
Number 11, got to go with the Liberty Bowl. Texas Tech takes on Arkansas. Texas Tech, winners of back-to-back bowl games underneath Joey McGuire, kind of turned the corner. They were a few plays away from getting upsets and maybe going to Arlington in year 4 of the McGuire era. You got to like the way that they've been able to build relationships out there in Lubbock. Todd Brooks was phenomenal. He becomes the all-time leading rusher. Who knows if he's going to play in this game? What I can tell you is that you have literally no weapons if you currently are Taylon Green. You have Andrew Armstrong. That's what you got. Luke Haas, he's in the portal. Isaac Tatenga, he's in the portal. Malachi Singleton, he's in the portal. So you are down a ton of talent. Landon Jackson opted out of this bowl game. So even the stars for a team like Arkansas have either already opted out to prepare for the transfer portal, or they've already opted out to prepare for the NFL draft. And it's going to be in Memphis, and it's going to be at the Liberty Bowl, and it's going to be frigid conditions. And I don't know how many fans are going to be there.
Ducks around there.
They're going to be flying south for the winter, Dave. We don't even have the Ducks at the Peabody Hotel. What we have is just cold, wet, damp weather in Memphis, Tennessee, and a Red Raiders team that was very hot down the stretch and wanted to prove to everybody that it's all about quality wins over quantity of wins. It was all about the way that you carried yourself. And Arkansas, the vibes are down right now in Fayetteville. You have half the fan base ready to sail ship and just be a basketball and baseball school at this point because if they're bringing back Sam Pittman, Pittman needs a win. Who knows who's going to be out there? I just can't buy into an Arkansas team that kind of feels like it waved the white flag just a little bit too late after losing to Missouri in the state line. The battle line trophy. All right, he got number 10.
Number 10, I'm going to go to the Gatsby Bowl, baby. I've actually been in this game against one of these teams in this. Florida. Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa against the Tulane Green Wave. Tulane faltered at the end of the year, unfortunately. The Thanksgiving beatdown that Thursday night as you were digesting your turkey by the Memphis Tigers. I don't know what happened in that game to them. Obviously, they lost to Army. This past week in the AAC championship game, quarterback Darian Mensah's going to sit out, hit the transfer portal here. I think if he was playing, this game would move up further on my list. But I will say this, what carries weight to get me excited, anytime DJ Lagway can go take some snaps under center, that is something to look forward to. I think Billy Napier and them will want to try to add that 8th win, obviously. But I think that would continue to build momentum, which we know in the offseason. Offseason is a very long season. So the more juice you got, the better it is. So I think Billy and them will take advantage of this. This game had real big game potential. If Mensah was playing now, I don't know. John Summerall is coming back. You like the season the Green Wave had. But overall, I feel like with Mensah sitting out, it kind of lost its luster a little bit there.
Death, taxes, and always finishing just outside of my quote-unquote top 10 or my top half. It's got to be any game that I was in. Give me the Music City Bowl against Mizzou. I love my Tigers. I do. I love the fact that we have that bite, that we have that victimality, that we have the ability to say we are a 10-win program. I am a true bandwagoner buying in to what is going on in Como. And I want to see Mizzou finish the year on out and prove to the world just because we finished 10-3 does not mean that we were an overrated 10-3. But one of the biggest stars and probably one of the more underwhelming seasons from Luther Burden comes to an end. You know, this offense is never going to be humming underneath a guy in Kirk Ferentz. It's going to be a great defensive battle. I will say, give a lot of credit to Corey Batoon, how he was able to replace Blake Baker this offseason is second to none. If you have a lot of players that are still willing to opt on in, depending on what you have at the running back room, if Marcus Carroll, if Nate Noel play in this game, depending on what happens with Theo Wees, if he plays in this game, Brady Cook, I do believe, is going to play one last time, represent the gold and black, go out on top. He is Mizzou through and through. He wants to see his team go to a close. But again, this is a game on December 30th. You're talking to yourself about, well, it's Iowa's offense. Are they going to have their star running back? Are they going to have a quarterback identity in this game? Is this going to be like a 10-3 final score? It's very souring to me when I like to see explosive offenses out in the Music City. And instead, I'm going to get Iowa, that we know will always have a decent defense and somewhat subpar offense, and Mizzou, who we don't know what type of offense is going to be showing up on that day. Who do you got, number 9?
Bear, we don't even have to continue the conversation much longer. The Music City Bowl, Old Broadway, will be down there. It's like you said, you mentioned Armand Mimbo, Luther Burden. These are the games I understand. Two things can be true. We always say that. We should start like a segment or just a once-a-week episode. Two things can be true at once, and we'll go off that. But you hate guys like Armand Mimbo and Luther Burden are sitting out, but you get it at the same time. But it's like, man, dude, Missouri's fighting for a double-digit win season again. I mean, you got 11 wins off the Cotton Bowl last year. Go get 10 here with a win over Iowa, like you mentioned. You'd like to see them play in it. I understand, but I do. This is where it bothers me a little bit, Barry. It shouldn't say bother is the wrong word. This is where you wish it would be like, man, dude, like, I don't know. If I went to school there, I was going to back-to-back winning double digits wins back-to-back years would be awesome. Like, I don't know. But I'm with you. You hit on the other point, so Music City Bowl is next for me.
Let's go to Sin City, Las Vegas Bowl. USC takes on Texas A&M. Here's the bottom line. A&M, I think, is still going to have an opportunity to finish the year 9-4. I still like the pieces that they have in play. A lot of these players defensively are going to start announcing that they are intending to enter the NFL draft. Shamar Stewart already announced. I would be surprised if Nick Scorton is not close behind him. I'd be surprised if Shamar Turner is not close behind him. You're going to see some more players into the portal. So the defense that at one point was viewed as the backbone for Mike Elko's squad is going to be missing some elements. You're also going to be missing some elements on offense. You're not going to have Le'Veon Moss out there. You're not going to have a couple of wide receivers. Multiple players already entered the transfer portal. The big question is, what do you have at the running back room? Do we get to see Reuben Owens in this game? Because remember, he was cleared to play in the Lone Star Showdown, so maybe because of the eligibility won't be affected because of its bowl season, we get to see him be utilized alongside Marcel Reed, kind of a good indication about what direction this offense is going into. For USC, a lot of players are entering the portal. We've already seen multiple running backs. We've already seen multiple offensive players go. Jaden Maeva, he went 3-1 as a starter. He got a win over Nebraska. You got to feel pretty confident about the direction that at least this team is going in with the quarterback position, but they're also going to potentially bring in another quarterback in the offseason. It just feels like, once again, for A&M, if they were to lose this game, it's more so because the pieces that they don't have versus the pieces that USC does have. It's very hard for me to buy into that, especially when I've already seen USC play out at Allegiant Bank Stadium. And more importantly, that was a game that kind of the SEC threw in favor of the Trojans.
Bear, we're on opposite ends on that one, brother. We'll see. To be determined. Stay tuned. But no, Bear, my next one, you already mentioned the game. The Liberty Bowl in Memphis, Tennessee. North. Arkansas, Texas Tech. Yeah, you're right, though. It's always a brisk, freezing game. Well, Arkansas was in this, 2 years ago against Kansas?
I believe so.
It went into overtime?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah,
3 years ago.
Pittman, you saw Pittman in his press conference came up there and said, yeah, we really pushed for this one. We like going to Memphis in the Liberty Bowl. I was talking to some other staffs, like, we're either going to Vegas or we're going to Memphis. It's on opposite ends of the spectrum. But you hit on a lot of it. I think I can say I have this one a little high, Bear. I don't think you're wrong with a lot of the opt-outs. But doesn't this game kind of scream just like a wild finish? It just like this game with Arkansas involved for whatever reason. It's like, yeah, there's going to be some crazy ending to this.
I can see that. Let's go to Raymond James Stadium for me, and we're going to be breaking down the Gasparilla Bowl. Here's the reason why. This is an indication for anybody in the transfer portal to look at DJ Lagway and say, I got to play with this kid. There are so many players that are going to be still looking for their destination. This is the first of the SEC Bowl games, December 20th. So a lot of players are still going to be looking for their next destination. Some may have already joined Florida. Some may be looking at Florida and Florida State. Some may be looking at Florida and another SEC program. And you get to see more of DJ Lagway. Where is he improved? What does he look like against a G5 opponent that has a stellar defense headlined by John Summerall? On the flip side, there are going to be players that look at Tulane as a group of 5 program to where they can revitalize their career or end their career on a positive note and be a contender as the group of 5 representative. As long as John Summerall is calling plays down in New Orleans, I believe the Green Wave are going to be a threat in the AAC. They're going to be a threat to go to the college football playoff. But I feel like that when you look at a team like Florida, how good the vibes are to close out the year 8-5, saying that you got wins over LSU, saying you got wins over Ole Miss, a close call against Tennessee, a win against your rival in Florida State, a win over UCF, and then you get to close out your year with a team that at one point was viewed as the G5 potential representative in the college football playoff, and you have your quarterback in a young foundation that continues to thrive and prosper. That's enough for me to buy some stock into. And so for this reason alone, for the potential of recruits and more importantly, transfer portal players, seeing what DJ Lagway can be as a future offensive juggernaut in the SEC, I got to put it at number 8.
Man, I'm going to go to your neck of the woods, baby. Houston. I'm going to go to Houston, which is strange, man. I'm looking at the dates right here. The Texas Bowl this year on New Year's Eve at 3:30. Yep. This game is normally, if I remember right, like December 28th at like 9 p.m. Eastern. Normally, yep. It's something like it's usually like a late night, really Christmas break kind of game. So it's wild. It's this early, but yet Dave Aranda, the Baylor Bears, coming in, winning 6 straight, finishing 8-4, going against his old team. He's the former DC. Brian Kelly coming out and say, "Hey, everybody better." He's putting people on a watch notice, lookout notice. They're coming in 2025. This would be a good start. Again, I think LSU. They're like. It sounds weird, but I remember Will Campbell saying. And they all I think after they lost to Alabama, he's like, man, if we were to lose our next 2, like I know if we win our next 2, 8-4, we're finishing 8-4. If we lose our next 2, we're 6-6. He's like 8-4 is so much better than 6-6. And like I know most people will be like, well, no kidding. He's like, but he's right. Like there's just a total different feel. If you can get to that 9th win too, finish the year winning 3 in a row. I think a lot of people would feel a lot better about this season if you go finish off the transfer portal, successful transfer portal haul in this month in winter and in the spring. So I'll go this one in Houston.
Let's stay in Houston. Texas Bowl for me too. Here's the bottom line. I think that Baylor, with what they have done to fortify their NIL collective, and more importantly, have an identity with this new offense headlined by Jake Spavital, they're going to be a threat very similar to an Arizona State or a BYU in 2025 if they continue this momentum. Or it's going to be Neil Brown 2.0, where a 9-4 season is on the horizon, regression sets on in, and Waco makes a move in the offseason going into 2026. On the flip side, Brian Kelly has already said, we're a national championship contender in 2025. All right, bet. Who's on your team that's going to scare me going into next season? Are you going to bring back Garrett Nussmeier? You're working out deals right now for NIL to potentially have him as your starting quarterback. Do you go into the portal? Are you targeting new wide receivers to replace guys like CJ Daniels and potentially Kyron Lacey? What are you doing about the tight end play in Mason Taylor? Your offensive line is losing some pieces. 2 superstar bookends in Emory Jones and Will Campbell. So how am I supposed to believe that right now with this offense going against a Big 12 team that wants to continue having the good vibes, one of those rosters that turned the corner at the right time and I think is flying under the radar? What is making me scared if I am a Baylor Bear fan? Again, this is also a great proximity game. It's going to be filled to the brim with people in the gold and purple. It's going to be filled with the people in the gold and green. I promise you, Waco is right up the road. And Baton Rouge is not that far. There's a big fan base out in Houston that comes from Louisiana. It's going to feel like a home atmosphere. It's a game that I potentially will be going to. So I like this game. I like the matchup. I think it's 2 teams that really want to end their year on at least a high note to build momentum going into the offseason. Texas Bowl comes in for me right after it.
Barry, let's head over to the Hobby Airport in Houston and fly back to Tampa. Reliaquest Bowl, Alabama, Michigan. Not the rematch we all thought we'd get from the playoff Rose Bowl last year. This will be an interesting one. How many opt-outs do both teams have? Again, this game could probably move back a little bit, or it could move forward a little bit to me. I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. I think both these teams are going to be so focused on their personnel acquisition that it'll be interesting to see who sticks. Like Tyler Booker and them are going to hang around. I think the core guys, Jalen Milroe, I'd lean towards no, does not play in this game. But I think guys like Tyler Booker will stick around, play out their last game. It seems to me like he's one of the old school guys that like, hey, it means something to go in to the University of Alabama playing football here for this program. I think he'll play. It'll just be interesting. Like, of course, will Will Johnson play for Michigan? I don't know. So it's a helmet game, so it does elevate itself to some extent. But it is a little bit, obviously, more underwhelming of a rematch than we had from last year's playoff game that went to overtime, obviously.
Alabama is in Tuscaloosa, but my next game is in Birmingham. Give me the Birmingham Bowl between Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech. Two teams that feel like that they're trending in the right direction with their head coaches. It certainly feels like that now that you have Brent Key locked on up. They're going to finish with a top 4 recruiting class in the ACC. They went down to the wire against Georgia, 8 overtimes. Again, the way the rules are, maybe if things were different, we'd be talking about Georgia Tech with an 8-win season this year. More importantly, they got a quarterback in Haynes King that's able to utilize his legs. Guess it's on the opposing side. A quarterback that knows how to utilize his legs in Diego Pavia. Guess what both teams also have? Great defensive lines that are able to capitalize and put pressure on offensive lines. What else they have? Great rushing attacks. What else they have? They're basically playing the Spider-Man meme of pointing at each other and just going, hey, we're like you. No, we're like you. No, we're physically stronger than you. No, we're physically stronger than you. And by the way, for my money, one of the best trophies in all of college football is the Birmingham Bowl trophy for the Vulcan. I love it to death. Anybody that gets to have it, Brent Key, Clark Lee, give me that trophy. Let the good vibes be rolling out in Atlanta or in Nashville. I like this game a lot, actually.
Bear, I'm just going to slide a stool over next to you at the bar and grab a beer. We're going to stay in Birmingham, man. We're going to Innisfree downtown. I'm sticking with you. I'm actually pretty fired up about this matchup. I know I only have it coming in here at 5th, but I was actually leaning it to trending it up a little bit more for me. I think both these teams have a lot to play for. I think
Absolutely.
There's a lot of momentum to be taken. I mean, just Vanderbilt alone, trying to get to that 7th win. You have a winning season. Obviously, I think you've already had a great season. But if you could top it off and actually finish 7-6 with a win against a solid ACC team, if you're Georgia Tech, you're trying to win 3 out of your last 4, with one of those 4s being to Miami, the other one NC State. You're lost, as you mentioned, Cole, an 8 overtime loss to Georgia, who ultimately won the SEC. Then if you were to go follow that performance up against one of the hotter teams in the SEC this year, take away just the name Vanderbilt, but actually watch them this year. Yeah, I mean, this game fun. Like you said, Haynes King, Diego Pavia, 2 of the more exciting, just pure college football quarterbacks. And that's why we all love to watch the sport. So I'm pretty fired up for this one. You're right.
Out of curiosity, does this move down your list just even a little bit with Singleton deciding to enter the transfer portal?
Not really. I'd probably keep them about the same.
Fair enough. All right, let's go to Tampa, Jacksonville. My apologies. And let's talk about the Gator Bowl. This is really high for me because if it's one more time to see Jackson Dart, he gets to cushion his stat line to become the greatest quarterback to ever play in Oxford. You're going to see multiple seniors, I think, go out. We've already heard the Trey Amos, Washington, Jordan Watkins is going to be playing in this game. On the flip side, Duke kind of flew under the radar this year. Manny Diaz comes on in after getting the short end of the stick at Miami, really was kind of like waiting for the breakup to happen, thought that he was going to be sticking around, and then the boyfriend breaks up with his former girlfriend, and Miami goes for the hot guy, Mario Cristobal, gets a second shot. Probably the most underrated team in the ACC. They found a way to take SMU to overtime. They have a shot to go 10-3 on the year, which would be better than what Mike Elko ever did in his 2 seasons when he was there. They have a quarterback in Malik Murphy that I think that you can build around. Duke also is trying to become a player in the transfer portal. Very similar to what a team like Ole Miss did a few years ago, where they brought in certain names to build a foundation and establish a long-term culture that can be sustainable in winning conferences. At this point, the ACC, I think, has told us, if you have 2 teams that go 11-1 and make it to Charlotte, we're going to reward you to go to the college football playoff. And a quarterback like Malik Murphy and a defense headlined by Manny Diaz is going to create fits and problems. They can run the football extremely well. Depending on the opt-outs for Ole Miss, this could be a very close call game. But for the Rebels, this is an opportunity to finish your season off with 10 wins for the 3rd time in 5 years underneath Lane Kiffin. That's got to mean something to the fan base. That's got to mean something to the players. Even though your goal didn't come to the actual finish line of what you expected, you have an opportunity to go down in history as one of the most winningest programs during a 4-year span, headlined by a quarterback that people believe could have eventually won a Heisman Trophy.
Bear, we're going to head over to Orlando. We're going to head over to O-Town. We are going to roll over to the Citrus Bowl. My guys, South Carolina versus Illinois. I think South Carolina this year is going to be the team. It's very similar to Missouri. Very similar to how Missouri was last year when they were heading into the Cotton Bowl. They were really, you can tell Missouri really wanted that game a little more. Again, South Carolina was the team that was picked first to be in this game out of the group between Alabama, Ole Miss, and themselves. And I think that was kind of because they figured this team was coming in hot. Their team was going to travel well. Their team was more excited to be in this. I think South Carolina and Shane Beamer are going to take this real serious. I know the bowl games get lost sometimes, and hey, who really cares? Who doesn't really care about this one? But I think overall, man, no, I'm excited for this game. I wish I kind of had it higher than 4th, if I'm being honest with you. I think Illinois is going to try it. I think this game will probably, if you made me rank all the SEC games outside of the playoffs, I truly believe this is going to be the one that both teams are going to probably be the most interested in, probably along with Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech, honestly.
Let's go to Tampa. Let's talk about the Reliaquest Bowl, the Helmet Bowl of all Helmet Bowls, Alabama versus Michigan, a rematch of last year's college football playoff semifinal. The reason that I'm excited for this game, Dave, is because I get to potentially see what Kalen DeBoer's offense will look like going into 2025. Because I agree with you, I do think that this is the end of the Jalen Milroe era. Jalen would have played if the team would have been in the 12-team playoff. You would have seen multiple players like Kendrick Law and Kobe Prentice maybe decide to stick around a little bit longer if the team made the 12-team college football playoff. But I don't think that Milroe is going to be playing. So what are we going to see? Who is the next potential quarterback in line? Because you brought in Russell. Russell from Duncanville is going to be a superstar talent. This is a guy that's very similar to Deuce Knight for a guy like Hugh Freeze, DJ Lagway for Billy Napier, Nico Iamaleava for Josh Heupel. You're hitching your wagon to him to be your future. But the future doesn't mean 2025. It could be 2026. So what do you get in a guy like Ty Simpson being the long-term answer? What do you get potentially in an Austin Mack, somebody that followed you from Seattle down to Tuscaloosa? What does Ryan Williams continue to look like? Who is maybe a wide receiver that's going to have a breakout game? What does your backup offensive tackle look like? Because at the same time, there are going to be players who are in line to come to Alabama and play from the transfer portal, similar to Jeremy Bernard. How do you build an identity on offense to show fans this is what you can expect from us moving forward? Or more importantly, you get to see we need to target X, Y, and Z positions in the portal, whether it be this wave or in the spring wave, because if we want to be a continued success story underneath this new regime, we got to upgrade at these certain spots. So it's a new version of Alabama. That excites me as an Alabama grad. That excites me as an Alabama fan. More importantly, just as somebody of the SEC, what is Alabama going to look like in now that we lose everyone from the Nick Saban tree and we're looking at actually Kalen DeBoer's roster?
Yeah, that one could move up or down. You're 100% right. I'm going to go out to Vegas. You already mentioned this one. I'm going to go A&M, USC. I think both these teams have a lot to play for as well. I know I've said that about the last 3 ones. But I think Mike Elko and them, this is a big momentum game to me. Like, I don't think South Carolina's going to really take the momentum. I think they're just focused on finishing this season strong. Same with Vanderbilt. But I think it would just be a very disappointing end to it'd almost be like, my God, we went from almost playing in the SEC championship to losing the Las Vegas Bowl to USC and Lincoln Riley. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're the biggest from, man, where was the beginning of the month of November seems so long ago at this point. Like, I think if South Carolina lost, people are kind of like, still good year, man. Who cares? It's like, I think this game, though, it's like, like, it's a big, heavy momentum game to me in this game. I think you love to see the defensive matchup with Mike Elko. Again, never feel it's a bad defense. They always have a good game plan against Lincoln Riley and them. So we'll see. Obviously, Miller Moss transferred out. We're going to see Maivea. I'm just kind of excited about that. I think this could be – I want to just see the two masterminds offensively, defensively going. And I think A&M really does need this game.
Number 3 for me. Let's go to Austin, Texas for a playoff matchup. Clemson, number 12, taking on number 5 Texas at DKR. I know it's a playoff game. It's an elimination matchup. The winner of this will go play against Arizona State. Here's my thing. I have some questions when it comes to Clemson. I have some questions when it comes to Texas. Both of them, I think, have a lot of issues that they're going to have to correct over the next week and a half before you see the Tigers take the field at DKR. Most importantly, what does your quarterback play look like for Texas? What does your offensive line look like if you're Clemson? If you're able to establish the run with Phil Maffa, then I think that this is going to be a really good matchup. Because remember, this is a rematch of the Texas State title game a few years ago between Cade Klubnik and Quinn Ewers. They were beloved at Westlake and Southlake Carroll. So a lot of people in the state know what both of these quarterbacks can do. Dodge family, I'm actually going to try to get one of them on to break down these two quarterbacks and what they provided right here on the channel. It was a huge matchup for the state. A lot of people remember just the back and forth of what Quinn Ewers wasn't able to do. Remember, he wasn't healthy in that game against Duncanville, and Cade Klubnik was wheeling and dealing, slicing and dicing apart. Everybody in the chats were able to go ahead and hoist up a state title. But for me, what it really comes down to is, can Quinn Ewers fix the mistakes? Because I think that you guys see more consistency from him. Yes, he threw for over 300 yards. He also only found his way to the end zone on a 41-yard touchdown pass to DeAndre Moore against Georgia's defense. I got to see more from the consistency of the ground game. I got to see more from the consistency of the passing attack from Clemson. This could be a very close call. It could be a blowout for that matter. Regardless, I feel like that Texas at number 3 is a little bit underwhelming. They have an easier path to the semifinals. I think a lot of people want to give credit for. They got to play A-plus version of football, though. If not, this is going to be a 4-quarter battle, and there's going to be a lot of people wondering what went wrong down in Austin in a year when we thought that we were going to win the SEC championship.
Yeah, that's my next one too, Bear. The playoffs. I got Texas, Clemson. I actually like Texas's road to the, like you said, the semifinals from that perspective. I just don't see Clemson moving the ball much against Texas here. I mean, I just really don't, especially on the road. You're right. You like the storylines out there. Cade Klubnik, like you mentioned, Andrew Makuba playing against his former team.
Another rivalry matchup.
Yeah, and they're coming back into that one. I think you hit on a lot of those, so I'm not long-winded. It's obviously a playoff game. 2 good logos here rolling in this one, like you mentioned, the storylines. And let's see what Quinn Ewers we get, man. What's kind of the different game plan here with Arch Manning? What do we kind of see? Texas is that team that's kind of like, again, they lost in overtime in the SEC championship game, but once again against Georgia, the offense didn't show out. Will they be committed in the run game? I don't think you get away from that. You have to continue to do what you did against Kentucky and Texas A&M to end the regular season. And it's going to be a solid Clemson defensive front led by Peter Woods and them. So I like Texas in this matchup, but to your point, Bear, they're going to have to play their A-plus football game as well.
Number 2 for me, Cheese and Citrus Bowl, South Carolina versus Illinois. Both these teams, much like Duke and Ole Miss, looking for a 10-win season. It would be a historic year for Shane Beamer going into year 4. More importantly, it's the Cheez-It Bowl. You get a bucket of Cheez-Its dumped on you at the end of the day. Cheez-Its are the number 1 snack in America. If you hate Cheez-Its, you hate America. And I cannot imagine a life to where I don't hear Lenore Sellers embrace his inner cheesehead and goes, I woke up feeling the cheesiest, coach. Like, that's got to be a line that's mentioned by him. You brought this up. Last year, a Cotton Bowl victory, 11-2 finish for Mizzou. What happened in the offseason? They went big in the portal. They got 2 great running backs. They built up their offensive line. They brought in a ton of defensive talent to reassess themselves, and they finished 9-3 with a shot at going 10-3. South Carolina feels a lot like that, where they can regroup in the portal defensively. They can add in another weapon to pair alongside Mazeo Bennett, to pair alongside Nick Harbor. Lenore Sellers, he's going to be back next year. You know he is a difference maker at quarterback. What's going to be the status of Dowell Loggins in this game? Is he going to be back to call plays? Is he already going to be off to App State? Are we going to know who is the next offense coordinator? Is it going to be Mike Shula? Is it going to be Sean Elliott? Are we going to see an early expectational grasp of what we get next season with the folks down at Willie B? And besides all that, 10 wins. A year to where you get to say, leave no doubt, we did our job. We dominated. We delivered. This is why, even though we finished 9-3, we were still one of the most 12 dangerous teams in college football. You damn sure needed to put us in the playoffs. And they're going up against the Fighting Brett Bielemas. And whenever you can go up against the Fighting Brett Bielemas when you're the War Chickens, you love that animosity. So give me South Carolina versus Illinois. More importantly, we've already seen Shane Beamer get mayo dumped on his head. I would love to see Cheez-Its go ahead and concourse that man.
No, Barry, you brought up a good point, too. You're right. The Sean Elliott, Mike Shula. So we'll get to see that this week. That'll be good. All right, for the bowl game that week. That'll be good. Final one. Looks like we both got the same one. The most excited first-round playoff game. I mean, Tennessee at Ohio State. I think we'd have been fired up wherever this game was located, but it happens to be in Columbus. It's the primetime game that night on that Saturday. Looking at the weather forecast, 10 days out on Saturday the 21st. The high right now in Columbus, 36. The low, 26. 24% chance of snow. So we'll see. I mean, I think the more initially I'm like, oh man, Tennessee, they're screwed in that first round game. And obviously their path is very hard, just like Oregon, the 1 seed for whatever reason. That's a conversation for another day. But Tennessee specifically here, I like the matchup with their front 7 against Ohio State struggling offensive line. I think if they win the football game, we will be looking back on that matchup there. Tennessee's defense, I think, will keep them in this football game. Now, it's going to be the best group of wide receivers they've seen all year, but can Will Howard take advantage? On offense, Josh Heupel in big games against good teams on the road. And I know people are like, well, a lot of teams probably have losing records out, or a lot of coaches outside Nick Saban probably has losing records on the road against other good teams. Fair. It's hard to win on the road in college football. But Josh Heupel and them are no-shows for about a half or even full games at times. they're going to need a complete effort this one. They can't have a half against Alabama where they have 0 points at half, or the second half they had against Georgia and Athens. That can't happen. This has to be his best road game performance of his entire career. And I would say right now his best one was probably the one in Norman, going back to his alma mater a couple weeks ago. But what Nico Iamaleava do we get? It'll be a fun matchup, though. It'll be a fun matchup. I think both front sevens will be kind of the strengths heading in this matchup. But, man, I actually am really jacked about this game. I hope it gets as cold as it gets. Definitely going to be cold, though. Like I said, folks, high 36, low 26 as we stand right now.
One of the best defensive lines in college football going up against an offense that spent an egregious amount of money to believe that they were all in for 2024. It is absolutely the matchup between Tennessee and Ohio State. This is a game that I think is going to show the weaknesses of both offenses if they were to make it to the Rose Bowl and face off against Oregon. More importantly, this is a matchup that you get to see why Dylan Sampson was snubbed a Doak Walker Award. This is why you get to see the progression of what Nico Iamaleava is going to be in 2025 and beyond. This is what you get to see from a defensive front with incredible depth. And more importantly, you get to see which coach actually can live up to expectations. Think about this for a minute. Ryan Day at home in the shoe, already facing bad juju after losing for a fourth consecutive time to Michigan, gets a mulligan. If he wins this football game, congratulations. They're going to the quarterfinals. He gets to save face a little bit longer. You get to say, we didn't beat Michigan, but we're still in the hunt for a national championship. Meanwhile, if you're Josh Heupel, you get to say to all the doubters and people out there that didn't believe that this was a year to where Tennessee did enough to prove that they were in the playoff. They got to 10-2, but they also kind of feel like one of the weaker teams. You're a liar. You have no idea what you're talking about. We're dominant defensively. We have an offense that's making plays. We maybe get to see the growth of a guy like Mike Matthews, who stepped on up really big in the Vanderbilt game at the end of the year. We get to see more of the progression from what this offensive line could be going into 2025. I love this matchup. I think this is going to be the best game. I think it's going to be a 4-quarter battle at the end of the day. I don't know who I'm going to pick right now. Both teams are facing a lot of pressure to meet expectations. Here's what I will say. As a fan of college football, knowing that there is a game in the shoe, knowing that there is a matchup in the snow, and people who love to say the South is weak because they have only hot weather, people don't know how cold it can get in Knoxville, Tennessee in early December. I promise you, the boys in Rocky Top will be prepared for this matchup. It is a must-see showcase. It is one that I think everybody needs to be paying attention to. And at the end of the day, the winner of this game may actually be dangerous enough to make it a 4-quarter battle against Oregon.
Yeah, no, you're right. Tennessee's got the murderer's row heading in there. So does Oregon, honestly. But no, you're right, man. I don't know how you couldn't put that game one. I mean, that just has what everyone initially thought when they heard 12-team playoff first-round games on the road. Like, man, imagine these SEC teams having to go up north. Well, we get to see it. But as I heard someone mentioned earlier, it's like you said, Bear, it gets cold in Knoxville. And let's be honest, the Big Ten doesn't play games in November at night a lot either. So it's not like they go play in these night games like this either. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State's at 11 a.m. Central every year. So, I mean, it's an advantage for really, it's a moot point. Both teams got to play in it. It's just funny to look at this weather because I think these are the games people thought about initially when they saw the 12-team playoff expansion. So here we go. We get it.
Let us know in the comment section down below. Which of us is too high, too low on your favorite team's bowl game? Remember, we don't hate your team. We just hate your fan base. That's why we ranked you at number 12. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports. Me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. Never let anybody tell you that bowl game season doesn't matter. Peace.